doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. In the 1930s, Hitler used fear, propaganda, and militarization to dismantle democracy. Right now, in 2025, Donald Trump is following the same patterns, and you need to see the receipts. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how Trump's actions today echo Hitler's rise to power in Germany. And no, I'm not saying that he's the exact same person, but the patterns are disturbingly familiar. History shows us that authoritarian leaders don't just wait for a crisis. They exploit it, or even manufacture one, to expand their power. In 1933, Hitler used the Reichstag flag, and that's when Germany's parliamentary building was set ablaze as justification to pass the Enabling Act. That act stripped away freedoms and gave him sweeping emergency powers. That single moment opened the door for dictatorship. Now, let's look at Trump. On January 6, 2021, he incited a mob to storm the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to overturn election results. This wasn't just a protest gone wrong. It was an orchestrated crisis. And now, in 2025, we're seeing Washington, D.C. once again heavily militarized. News outlets have reported that the White House has been barricaded off and troops are stationed throughout the city. Supporters may call this security, but historically fortified buildings and military presence in the Capitol are warning signs. Just as Hitler used fear and chaos to justify control, Trump is normalizing the idea that only he can restore power. Hitler famously attacked the press, branding independent media as Lügenpresse. By turning the media into an enemy, he convinced the Germans that he was the only one speaking the truth. Trump has done the same thing with fake news and calling journalists the enemy of the people. Whenever news coverage is unfavorable, his response isn't to disprove it with evidence. It is to discredit the source entirely. This isn't just about words. By undermining trust in independent institutions, the press, the courts, even elections, Trump positions himself as the only source of truth. And that's exactly how authoritarians consolidate power. Hitler demanded loyalty, not competence. He surrounded himself with SA and SS, groups that would carry out his orders without question, no matter how unlawful. Trump has shown this exact same behavior. He fired the FBI director, James Comey, after Comey refused to pledge loyalty and continued investigating Russia's interference. Inspector generals who investigated COVID's failures and government's misuse of funds were dismissed. His attorney general, Bill Maher, resigned after refusing to back Trump's election lies. And he directly pressured Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, demanding he find votes to overturn results. And there are so many more cases. Like Hitler, Trump has shown that he values personal loyalty above the Constitution, the law, or the truth. Authoritarians don't always need the military. They use mobs. Hitler had the brown shirts, violent gangs that intimidated political opponents, attacked Jews, and enforced Nazi ideology on the streets. Trump, he had the January 6th rioters, and beyond that, he encouraged violence at rallies, told supporters to knock the crap out of protesters, and even suggested and given pardons for those convicted of political violence. Both leaders relied on ordinary citizens turned violent mobs to achieve political goals. That's not democracy. That's intimidation. One of Hitler's most powerful tools was propaganda. He didn't just spin the news. He rewrote history itself. Nazi textbooks erased truths about Germany's failures and glorified Hitler as the only savior. Trump has mirrored this exact same strategy. With the 2020 elections, he relentlessly pushed the stop the steal lie, convincing tens of millions that he actually didn't lose.
All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
He and his allies attacked schools and libraries, banning books that have been teaching Americans the history of slavery, Jim Crow, and systematic racism. And his administration pushed back against the 1619 Project, claiming it was anti-American for centering slavery in the nation's story. This is whitewashing in real time. It's about how future generations understand America and erasing the parts that challenge Trump's narrative. Authoritarians know if you control the past, you control the future. Hitler loved parades, marches, and massive shows of military strength. They weren't just for defense. They were for intimidation. Trump has shown the same obsession. He pushed for a military parade in Washington that rolled tanks through the streets and staged flyovers. But the turnout was embarrassingly low, showing that the spectacle didn't land the way he wanted. But the imagery still matters. Right now, DC is once again filled with barricades and a fortified White House. These aren't normal democratic optics. They're the imagery of authoritarian power. The symbolism echoes 1930 Europe far more than the United States of America. So no, Donald Trump is not Adolf Hitler, but Donald Trump is acting in the same ways that Adolf Hitler did. He has exploited crises, attacked the press, demanded loyalty, encouraged violence, rewritten history, and normalized militarization. History doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it often rhymes. And if we don't learn from the past, we risk living through a new version of it. If you found this breakdown helpful, drop a comment with your thoughts, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure you're subscribed for the next deep dive. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, and free the United States.